Hi, I'm Jale. Welcome to my channel. If you have just watched the Monday live, and if you haven't, go and watch it and then come onto this video. But if you have just watched the Monday live, we got kicked off. There was, let's say, some information that came through that when I was tapping into it, I kind of went somewhere else and my internet totally got shut off. Now we're gonna continue on this path because I feel like there's more to be channeled, and I know everyone's gonna want to know what this is about. So we're gonna honour that by doing a video. They're saying not the cards, tap back into the phone conversation. So if you didn't already know, there was a phone conversation. I heard a dial up, and then it says press 1 for connection. So I press 1. And then I could hear a conversation between two people. And I'm still sat here thinking, is this a joke? Because if this is actually a conversation that happened, can I be, you know, when you just think, let me just sit in my heart center here for a minute, because I'm just kind of like, is this right? They're saying it is. Trust me to tap into this. So what I heard was, it was a conversation. It can't be right. They're saying it is. I'm going to just say it, but this blows my mind. See, this is when I'm like, is this right? It's a phone conversation between Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump that I heard. And Kim Jong-un is alive. It's like something's been organised. Something has been organised that we're not going to know about yet. We're not meant to know. Of course, naturally, I'm the idiot that taps into it. Yeah. I'm still debating what this is. This can't be right. They're saying it is. Every time I say it can't be right, they're saying it is. Every time. Do you know what it feels like to me? It feels like there's a little plan going on here that some people aren't privy to. When I say some, I'm talking a lot of people are not privy to this plan. So if there is a deep state, cue me being blocked on every social media platform, then they won't be privy to that. And I'm just hearing that they are privy to that. It was orchestrated by them. He's been bought. He's been bought. Kim Jong-un has been bought. North Korea is now sold. That's the deal. That's why the deal is to disappear. That was the deal. The deal is for Kim Jong-un to disappear, and the deal is for the deep state to own that country. You're not going to hear about this yet. Something will come through in August though that will confirm it. But I actually heard a phone conversation between two people, and I was like, what? It was, you know, when you're in one of those kind of areas where if you literally cannot dial out, you have to, like in a high security kind of area like a White House, you have to dial an outside line, don't you, to get out, because it wouldn't. And I just heard dial 1, and I was like, and I heard someone dial 1, and then it's like connecting. So it's almost like Donald Trump rung, but it was done through Donald Trump. He orchestrated this purchase because this is about China. He's trying to make a play for China because what he's going to do is he's trying to go round. Because obviously, as maybe you don't know, but there's a bit of a weird energy going on between China and America at the moment that's building up and building up. And they made a play. And so to get through to and get on top of the China thing, they had to make a move on North Korea. Now, they offered something that North Korea didn't have. Now, I feel like advancement. It's like they couldn't advance. So North Korea couldn't advance without a certain energy being received from the United States. And there's something that North Korea has that is going to really impact the dynamics between America and China. It's flipping the whole script. This has flipped the whole script. There is so many moves going on at the moment, whilst this pandemic is being played out as well, that a lot of the news that is relevant you're not hearing about, because there's so much other stuff going on. Let me try and tap into this. They're just saying Kim Jong-un was bought out. The sister made a deal to continue, but it's going to be in alignment with America. They're going to be building a business relationship with America. You'll start seeing more relaxed. I don't know if they're going to let people into the country. I think they have to. There's something about the legal side of things with North Korea and South Korea that means that if America own it, because I think that's what they've done, they've bought them out. They've made an offer they couldn't refuse. Something about flotating South Korea to the point where they're trying to build South Korea into their version of a superpower, but under their terms. Do you know what it feels like? It feels like, I'll be really honest with you, it's like a hostile takeover. It feels like that. It feels like a hostile takeover. They're about to make a play towards China, which goes along with my Palace video that I mentioned around the 29th. Now, the date today is actually the 27th. So it falls in line with that. So I'm going to post this later because I need to post it now. But what I want you to do is I want you to look out between now and the next 2 days for things and little clues that will be reflected in what I'm saying here. They're just saying they're about to make a move. Designed that way. It was designed this way. There was something about the markets or the financial side of North Korea that it couldn't be sustained anymore, because they'd cut themselves off. And I think, wow. Okay, this is insane. The reason Bill Gates came through in the reading is because they're showing me him, and they're showing me this virus that was developed. It was always meant to affect North Korea. I'm being shown like a DNA cycle of an imprint of a person of an individual that was meant to be affected by this. And I feel like they probably were, and I feel like they were blackmailed. I feel like Kim Jong-un was blackmailed. What you do is you either die, and then your ego dies as well, and all your money, or you stay alive. We give you a vaccine, we treat you, but we buy your country. That's essentially, I feel, what's happened here. And the reason why Trump is involved is because they're now doing business between the two countries, because what they're doing is they're trying to compete against China. There's more coming from this as well that is not known at the moment. There's more coming from this that is not known at the moment. I'm trying to tap into without being naughty, because obviously I don't have a right to tap into Kim Jong-un's energy because I'm not reading for him. He hasn't given me consent to read from him, so I can't physically, I mean, I could theoretically do it, but I mean, it would be unethical. So I'm trying to see if his higher self wants to come to me, because then it's a more it's consented then, isn't it? It's a consented interaction. The guy just said no. He's not coming, get over it. They're saying you'll know in due time, because I'm just trying to see if he's passed, and they're saying no. No, no, no. Wasn't around. He'll be announced as dying, yeah. They'll tell people that he's died, but he hasn't. He hasn't. Wait, someone's now saying he has. Let me have a look. So are you saying that this phone conversation I tapped into was before and they double crossed? Yes. Okay, if that's the case, let me just go to my ancestors then. Ancestors. See, interestingly, the ancestors saying he hasn't passed. They want us to believe. Hang on a minute. Let me ground myself here, because wow, my throat chakra is going a bit weird. By the way, I'm just doing this because it grounds me instantly. Feet on floor. Yeah. Now I'm getting eyeballs on me. There's some people that don't really want me tapping into this. I feel like this guy was double crossed. I feel like they made they made it again an offer he couldn't refuse, and then they double crossed him. It feels like he was ill. He was offered something to be promised that, you know, he'd be alive. That the deal was a business agreement which was signed and sealed on the dotted line, and then he died. But there's something more about this, because they're trying to hide. Someone's trying to hide this. There's some element of all this that isn't quite being pieced together properly, and I can feel it. There's something about an element of surprise here. So let me just tap into, where are you at the moment, please? Well, okay, Kim Jong-un's high self, where is your physical body located, if at all? Have you passed over? Wow, okay. He is dead. The reason I know that is I've just seen him dead. Wow, okay. Not entirely sure I was expecting to see that, but I can confirm, I've just seen it with my third eye, that yes, he is not alive. He's actually in a cold storage facility. No idea why that would be the case. I feel like they're trying to preserve his body for something. They're saying testing. But this is strategic. They do not want, because this is the thing, this is also an American move. They're not going to release this information until they watch this YouTube video. But the reason they've done it is because they want to catch China by surprise. Like that, something about this information, once it's known, there's something that China's going to benefit from, and they're trying to hold that off as long as possible because they want China to make a move first. It's about the world economy and the money. People are trying to get money from this, right? I'm going to be honest with you. And this was all a business move, because obviously at the moment there's a limited economic flow. And so that people are putting a lot of pressure on certain areas that are not, because think about it, North Korea isn't a country that, it doesn't trade with anyone. It has its own economy and it's being built up. But it's like, it's what's it called? A singular market, isn't it? Is that the term for it? A singular market? So if you're generating wealth, it's like people want to capitalize on that because then they can take the wealth that they didn't invest anything into. It's like a plus sign or a positive that came from no investment. I don't think they've invested anything in this. It's like there's no what's the word? Come on, guides. It's like they haven't lost anything out on it. They didn't buy it. They didn't have to break even to get into a profit margin. They physically gained a profit from it immediately. It was an immediate growth of wealth. But there's a trade that China has with North Korea, I think may have with China, that's what they're going for. Because if they can cut that off, number one, it's going to really help them and their wealth, but it's also going to mess up China. There's something about this and competing markets. Let me Google. Let me pause this and Google what North Korea buys from China. Okay, I think I found it. So I've just found on Reuters, North Korea exported sand to China in violation of UN sanctions, the group says. So apparently for several months in 2019, because this was published on March the 4th, right? So clearly this is a thing. For several months last year, a steady stream of ships were observed dredging sand in the North Korean Bay, then transporting it to China, a Washington-based think tank said. The extraction of sand from North Korea to China would violate a 2017 UN Security Council resolution that prohibits North Korea from supplying, selling or transferring sand, the Centre of Advanced Defence Studies said in a report. The group's researchers track the dredging and transport the sand through commercial satellite imagery and shipping databases. Between March and August 2019, a large fleet of vessels were observed originating from Chinese waters travelling to North Korea to dredge and transport sand from Haeju Bay. The reports describe unusual ship traffic in a bay less than 30 kilometres from neighbouring South Korea. China has called for sanctions to be eased on North Korea, but it also says it fully enforces the sanctions imposed with its assent by the UN Security Council because of the isolated country's nuclear and missile programs. The United Nations has found that North Korea has repeatedly circumvented restrictions on trade of things like coal, oil, often by conducting ship-to-ship transfers at sea. But the unprecedented scale and coordination of the dredging operation showcases the boldness and impunity with which sanctions evasions network operate. Wow. And basically they went on to say we expect them to continue to keep doing this. Wow. Now you might sit there and go, well, what has sand got to do with anything? Like, what is this? There's actually a sand war. It says China and developing countries need tens of billions of sand for urbanization and economic growth. Boom. They're holding them ransom. China can't develop without the sand, and if they've got North Korea, they're going to sell the sand to China so that their growth, USA is going to profit from. That is what, I'm sorry, that's what this virus has been about. The beginning parts of this virus was about that. It was determined to target a certain DNA group. Now, if you've been watching my lives, I actually did mention it tracking a certain DNA group. And then I got people arguing with me in the comments to say, oh, what do you mean by that? It's like, well, this. Like, this is a strategic money transfer and blackmail. This is blackmail. Like, let's be real. This is blackmail. And this is the thing. I mean, maybe we're not going to know about why suddenly this is, that who's actually in charge of North Korea. But North Korea's gone. It's being nationalised, probably as we speak. Which means we've got, what are the only two countries left now? Iran and who else? Let's double check that, because that's going to link. So just before I look into that, it says North Korea's GNP in 1991 was 22.9 billion or US dollars, or 1,038 US dollars per capita. So there is definitely some money to be made there. One sec. Wow. Get this. So I've just looked at state.gov and it says new sanctions under the Iran, North Korea and Syria Non-Proliferation Act that was apparently in place on February the 25th, 2020. Get this. It says Iran, North Korea and Syria Non-Proliferation Act authorises the United States to impose sanctions against foreign individuals, private entities and governments that engage in proliferation activities. The Federal Register notices all the official notifications for all non-proliferation sanctions determines. So let's break this down, because how I'm reading that is they walked straight into it. Like, they've walked straight into this. The Iran, North Korea and Syrian Non-Proliferation Act. So basically now, next on the list is Iran and Syria. Just FYI, the next hit list for these people are Syria, then Iran. Which is probably why, being real, Turkey was sending out loads of aid to different countries, because they know this is coming. Turkey knows that they're going to come through Turkey. Hopefully they don't, but this is what I think Erdogan is thinking, the president of Turkey. The Bureau of International Security and Non-Proliferation with Interagency Support is responsible for leading efforts to implement the INCSCA, which provides for penalties of entities and individuals that transfer to and acquisition from Iran since January 1999 of equipment and technology controlled under multilateral control lists, missile technology control regime. Wait, let me read through this and then come back to you. So FYI, I'm now on govinfo.gov, House Hearing 114 Congress from the United States Government Publishing Offices. This is actually from June the 17th, 2015. So this is 5 years ago almost. Let's see, I'm going to pause this and read through it. So this is about the nuclear negotiations. This is, and I'm fairly sure that those recently stopped. There was like a pause on negotiation of the nuclear weapons thing for Iran, and I think they've put new sanctions in place, which means I've got a feeling, this is how I'm reading this, but I'm going to read through it a little bit more after I've said this and double check the information. I don't know why I want to say this, but I feel like there's an act that has just been passed that probably North Korea had no freaking clue about. I've just got a feeling, and if they did, I think they didn't understand the severity of it, possibly, whereby any materials that could contribute towards making missiles or anything of that kind of area, they're not able to transfer, they're not able to purchase, because it's in violation of a recent act. I think they've probably been caught doing something of that effect and were blackmailed. This is like start of a blackmail period. It's like, let me read more of this. This is the other thing. Why do I feel like sand is needed for testing nuclear weapons? Why do I have that in my head somewhere? I feel like they passed this law to, because what I think's happened is they've been cultivating sand to sell to China to gain obviously money and wealth. But the reason it's so readily available is because they make it to obviously test nuclear weapons, and I think they possibly use that as a loophole to get hold of this, to block it, to sort of blackmail. Because where you test nuclear weapons, it melts sand into glass, and obviously if you're still testing that, you need more sand. There's something about this that's like, there's a sand thing here that is used as a commodity almost, that is, again, it's like they've used that as a leverage of some sort. It's like they've used that to gain access. They put sanctions on this country so that when, again, these kind of ships were toing and froing, they could intercede and renegotiate terms, especially if he suddenly got ill. Because I think without that, it probably wouldn't have really accounted for much, because, I mean, look, if this has been sanctioned by the UN and it's always been in place since like 1994, why now suddenly is this being an issue? Because I feel like they've been trying to catch him for something for a while. And I feel like that new law made it harder for him to wriggle out of. Which was why it was like a combined effort of the illness with this new law that was passed that finally pushed. I think there's probably more to this. Probably a lot more that's behind this. This has probably been sort of evolving for a long time. They're saying it has. But I think we're just seeing the effects of this now, or not at the moment. Like, obviously, I'm just seeing it psychically. But let's see what else I can find here. One sec. Yeah, the trade between China and North Korea has been down for the first part of 2020. So the trade surplus declined to 198 million in the first 2 months of 2019. So it's been dropping. China's sharp drop in trade with the rest of the world, reducing North Korea's ranking amongst Chinese trade partners. Okay, one more. And the other article is that China's still in the coal trade, and it says despite sanctions, $370 million exported over 5 months. UN report says most North Korea coal export heads to China. So yeah, they've cut the head. They've cut the head off. They've cut the hands off, you know. They're cutting this off via North Korea. Not only because I think they always had that in mind, but because they're trying to limit China. They want to, because I think obviously the economic side of things for America, probably there was some issues that meant that if they didn't do that, then people would be losing more money. Let's have a look. Let's pull some outcome cards here, please, for this situation. Outcomes, insights, please. I'll probably use the... Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to use these cards. I think I'm going to use the Queen of the Moon Oracle. These starseed cards don't seem fitting for this at the moment. Let me pull from this deck here. This is the Queen of the Moon Oracle by Stacey DeMarco. What can you tell me, please? Outcomes for North Korea situation, please. China, America. What is the outcome, please? What can you tell me? Yeah, look, peace. This is about some kind of agreement that's finally been put into place. There's definitely some kind of peace coming here with this. We've also got boundaries in the reverse. So someone has definitely overstepped here within the situation, which would make sense if they're blackmailing someone for their health. But there's going to be something good coming from this. Blossoming. Flower moon. We've actually got the flower moon coming up on the 7th of May. It is a Scorpio moon. If you've watched the live, you would have noticed that I mentioned the moon. So pay attention to the 7th of May up till the 10th for some news coming out around this. And also change. Okay, guys. So hopefully that's been of some benefit there. Hopefully that's sort of explained why the gap and why I was cut off. I don't think it might have been YouTube. Maybe it was YouTube, you know, cutting me off. The guides are saying no. The guides were saying it needed to be a separate reading. It couldn't have been, they didn't want it to come through in that reading because we were coming up to an hour. There was too much information that would have come out. If I'd have gone into more channeling, it would have thrown me off. So this is your reading to explain. Please watch the live if you haven't already for Monday. Monday's live, Monday 27th of April. And obviously this is the run up or the lead up or the explanation as to why that cut off early. Okay guys, thanks for your likes, shares and subscriptions. Thank you for all your support for the channel and take good care of yourselves. Until next time, bye.